making that dough in the crypto paradigm. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Alrighty, let's do this, surfers. Good morning from paradise. My name is Crypto Amaru, joined as always by Nick, the Crypto Hitman. And it is Thursday, March 26th. We got a spring in our step. We got our festive clothes on. We're feeling good. Spring is in the air. Markets, on the other hand, not so much. Little bit of a crazy time, I would say. I mean, on one hand, we have Bitcoin and Ethereum as the best performing assets of the past month since the war started, and yet we now have fear back at 10. We have news that Fannie and Freddie Mac, the mortgage lending giants, are now allowing crypto and Bitcoin to be used as collateral for your mortgages, and yet you have Mara, the biggest miner, one of the biggest miners, selling $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. Oil's up, it's down, war, is it over, is it start? What a schizo market we're in right now, folks. I don't know what to tell you. It's really a crazy time. I guess just hold. That's really all I have to say. I guess just hold. What are the charts telling us today, though, Nick?
Yeah, let's take a look here. Pull up the screen. We can see here, update, the crypto fear and greed index falls from 14 yesterday to 10. Remember, yesterday we were above $72,000. Now, why is this interesting and why is this a critical level? Well, because 10 or below has historically been major low points for Bitcoin and where you should be greedy when others are fearful and be buying. So should you be buying right here, and what is going on in the charts? Here is exactly what's been happening on the charts. We got the bullish cross yesterday, the 200 moving average crossing above the red 300 moving average. We've been calling for this to happen since back here. We said a rounded bottom and a cross would occur. That is happening on the back of higher lows. After yesterday's run to 72,000, well, it came out. We'll talk about some of these stories that Iran apparently doesn't want peace negotiations. Israel killed one of their neighbor officials, and Coinbase might not be playing ball with the Clarity Act that we thought was about to get signed. Sell-off ensued. Now, Bitcoin is holding the 200 moving average currently, while fear is at 10. If we see a bounce today, that is going to mark a major low and a continuation will occur. I just don't know what kind of white swan event can really happen right here to make that happen, Crypto Amaru. Usually the charts, the technical analysis is printing the news that is occurring behind closed doors. So for it only to be $2,000 down when we had Coinbase apparently not playing ball, so that means that we're probably not going to get the Clarity Act by the end of the month. We haven't really had an update on the SAVE Act, so probably not going to get that by the end of the month. And now Iran is saying no peace treaties, so we're probably not going to get the Iran war ending by the end of the month. The three things that we thought had a high probability of happening by the end of March all went kapoop yesterday, and yet we only fell from $72,000 to $69,000, and we're still holding major levels on this bullish cross of moving averages. What do you think that can happen to change the upward trajectory here? Where do you see this chart going?
Yeah, I'm not nearly as bearish as maybe everybody else. One, as to the Clarity Act, we'll get to that story in depth, but I think it actually still gets done, despite Coinbase throwing a little hissy fit in the corner. Remember, they don't vote. They're not the senators. They're not the members of the House. They don't actually vote on stuff. They're just an opinion as to what they want to happen. Obviously, they have a lot of money and lobbying behind it. But we'll see what happens with the Clarity Act. I'm hopeful it still gets done. Not by the end of the month, because that wasn't even the target. It was, I think, by mid-April, they were now saying. So in any event, I think that'll still happen regardless of Coinbase throwing a hissy fit. I want to look at this chart and then overlay it with the Trump tweets. That, to me, is the biggest thing. That is what's moving the markets each and every day. I bet if you went to, the last pump that we had. Why did it pump? Well, Trump came out and said, well, we're pursuing peace, and here's a peace plan. Okay, why is it selling? Well, now there's question as to whether the Iranians are going to, agree to it. So it's just geopolitical back and forth that's causing the chart to go up and down, but it's still within this range, which we haven't broken down below where we were at. We Where were those lows? 62?
60, 59.9.
Well, yeah, if you go all the way back to that huge capitulation there, sure, yeah, 60. So I mean, we're so far off from that. I don't know. I don't think this chart looks terrible. It's gonna take one bullish tweet from Trump to pump us back up. That's the white swan we need. Just a Trump tweet, and we're good to go.
Yeah, everything's looking constructive. The bullish cross that we called was going to happen all the way back at the beginning of March is now happening, and Bitcoin is trying to hold it here at 69,600. The market does not like Coinbase trying to battle on this Clarity Act. Down to 178. If you remember, when Bitcoin was up to 72,000, Coinbase was over $200 per share. So the market does not like what Coinbase is doing, or at least the traditional market is punishing Coinbase as that is kind of their crypto darling. And they see all this headline news. They have the 10 fear of Bitcoin. And even though Bitcoin is holding, those traditional market participants are selling Coinbase down. If we look at Ethereum, still trying to hold 2,000. $2,088. And what do you know? We predicted that what would happen? Rounded bottom bullish cross. What happened? Rounded bottom bullish cross. Ethereum, similar to Bitcoin, bouncing off that 200 bullish cross moving average. And we are waiting for some kind of Trump tweet or white swan to fall into effect and us to rise once again. It is unfortunate that we had, $2,300, a massive breakout for Ethereum. That gave it up on some black swan news, Iranian war, blah, blah, blah. But so far, levels are holding nicely, and the moving average bullish cross is finding itself a good floor for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's see if Coinbase can get their head out of their butt and save their stock price as well.
Bro, you need to sell your Coinbase shares right now in protest. What
No,
Brian
can't do
Armstrong
that.
doing is just despicable. It's pathetic. You are going to potentially torpedo this bill because there's a little of ambiguity and some language you don't like in terms of stablecoin yield. I mean, this is just pathetic, guys. Absolutely pathetic. Someone needs to take Brian Armstrong and just smack him upside the head. Wake the F up, brother. You're going to potentially kill this bill over yield, and I get it. Look, that is a big part of your business. But it's a bigger part of your business. Because I have read that something like 20% of their revenue comes from the stablecoin yield. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. But allegedly, that's what I read.
Maybe right now during the bear market, definitely that flips on its head during bull.
Yeah, you know where you make a lot more money? Trading fees. When people want to trade Bitcoin, when price go up. You know how to make price go up? You pass the damn bill. So get your head out of your ass, Brian Armstrong. This is ridiculous. The good news, because you know me, I'm Mr. Positive. I'll say something mean, and then you always got to spin it positive. The good news is Brian Armstrong is not a United States Senator, ladies and gentlemen. He's not a member of the House of Representatives. He is just a dude with an army of lobbyists. They can sway the people who vote, surely, but they are not the be-all, end-all. And my hope is that they'll throw this little hissy fit. Maybe the language will be massaged and finessed a little bit more to be in their favor, or they'll get some clarity around, okay, I'm confused as to what this clause may mean for my business. Okay, let's get some clarity around and make it more specific language and get the deal passed. I don't think he's going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, Brian Armstrong's not a dumb person. He knows that the most important thing is just getting the thing passed. It's not, okay, the stablecoin yield and specific language around it. He knows he's got to get it passed. So I think they're going to get it passed. I think it's going to happen. Maybe not till mid-April, or hopefully not too much longer, because I'm getting a little impatient here. But it is frustrating to see this guy throwing a hissy fit, and I think you should sell your shares in protest, Nick.
Well, talking about a negative thing going on at the government level, here's a bullish thing. Update: the White House clears review of a proposed 401k rule by U.S. Department of Labor that could allow crypto investments. Again, the more of these doors that open for AUM to easily and legally flow into crypto investments, especially with the top investment inflows going into spot ETF and spot holding investments, the better. Meaning people who auto-contribute to their 401k every 2 weeks. Why do you think S&P 500 goes up and to the right? The NASDAQ goes up and to the right. The Dow Jones goes up and to the right. Because every 2 weeks there's millions and millions of employees who are auto-delegating into those investments. Well, what if that auto-delegation can now flow into Bitcoin spot ETF, ETH spot ETF, the ETH B dividend-paying ETF, or other crypto-related investments that start coming to the forefront of opportunity? That is how you start to get the up and to the right in crypto cycle after cycle.
Amen. I mean, this was a big story we covered when it dropped like 6 months ago. But like anything in government and the traditional financial markets, takes forever to actually come into effect. And I guess we're still at the place where they're reviewing rules and they're clarifying rules and they're getting approvals for various things and they're going through the agencies. And I mean, these things take forever, at least in the, the world we live in crypto, where a week feels like a year. But the good news, it is eventually going to happen. It is absolutely going to happen. Clarity Act will probably help. What the SEC just did is also going to help too. They basically preempted the Clarity Act by saying certain crypto instruments are not securities, certain are. I mean, it's a whole of government initiative. I think if you kind of zoom out and take a step back, all of government is now pushing crypto forward. And this is another example of it. When do individual investors finally get to invest into crypto through their 401ks? I don't know, end of the year maybe? We'll have to continue to follow this story. It's nothing happens fast, but it's a slow moving tsunami, let's call it that way. And eventually trillions will flow into this asset class.
Yeah, and I mean, although things don't feel great, it's pretty crazy to see this right here. Bullish Ethereum and Bitcoin are outperforming every single asset since the U.S. attacked Iran. Now, granted, you can look at it both ways. The pessimistic view as well, stocks already went on a major run, gold went on a major run, silver, all this stuff already was on a massive run. So, it outperforming right now isn't that crazy. The other assets are just, going back to the downside, and the Ethereum and Bitcoin trying to catch up. But on a bigger picture, right now the war is driving all the markets, right? Trump tweets are driving all the markets. And right now, in this chaos and uncertainty, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the biggest beneficiary of the uncertainty in the markets, which is good to see.
It's good to see, but it's also wild. Like, who would have thought that this would be the case? Because think about Bitcoin and Ethereum and their correlation going back 6 months, 12 months, even longer, maybe to the NASDAQ. I mean, there was like a 1-for-1 correlation. NASDAQ would move, and those are all, NASDAQ is heavily tech stocks, right? NASDAQ would move, ETH and Bitcoin follow, mirroring that very closely. That correlation was true for a long, long time. And all of a sudden, the war breaks out. The tech stocks have done terribly. Magnificent Seven is down like an average of like 10%. Even the darling is like Nvidia's down big time, right? And Microsoft's down like 25%. But in any event, tech stocks down, but here's Ethereum, Bitcoin outperforming. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense, guys. My thought is, hey, they're just oversold. Investors looking for, I don't know, somewhere to put their money. I don't know, man. It's hard to wrap your head around what this all means, the implications of it. Maybe they were just super oversold and people saw an opportunity. But I'm loving it. I'm happy to see it. The weird thing, though, is despite Bitcoin and Ethereum's outperformance, fear is still at 10. That's pretty wild, too. That's pretty wild. So this is a crazy, I can't remember a market this weird and wonky and wild. I know the war is affecting everything, as Martin has so eloquently put here. I agree. We know that. That's just a fact. You have to ask yourself this question, though. Do you think the war is going to last forever, guys? Or are we going to be in this for 10 years? Is this a 20-year war like the one we had with Afghanistan? Highly, highly, highly unlikely, guys. So eventually the war will end. Markets will pump again. Sucks if you're being impatient and need the money now, but all you can do is wait, folks.
Yeah, beyond this, with the assumption that the war ends, how do we get Ethereum to continue to outperform Bitcoin and give us the alt season we've all been waiting for? Well, here's some nice things to talk about. Ethereum mainnet active addresses are holding at all-time high levels, which is pretty crazy because retail, alt season, all that is dead. I don't know how or why these Ethereum mainnet active wallets are what they're doing. Maybe it has to do with stablecoins. Institutions are getting involved. They're moving funds around for the Ethereum spot ETFs. You do have a lot of other institutional investors and bankers creating their own stablecoins, many of which are launching on Ethereum. So that maybe that's how these are weekly active addresses are staying so high. 1 year ago, you had 97% growth to get here. 4 weeks ago, you had another 13% growth. Polygon POS right now behind at 2.84 million and base at 1.99 million. Arbitrum still 785K weekly active addresses. We see no activity in altcoins. We see no activity in new retail or even old retail wanting to get active because their portfolios are depressing. How is there still so much activity going on, yet price is still not doing anything.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to share this story, because it's one of those so confusing facts about this market right now. This market doesn't make sense across so many different metrics. This is another example of that. Yeah, I mean, altcoins dead. I mean, the trenches are dead. I mean, even Solana's basically dead. If you look at the Solana active addresses chart, spike way up in 24, 25, and then crash back down. I mean, there's nothing happening there either. Who the hell are these addresses? My guess is a lot of it, maybe some of it's like agentic AI doing stuff. I don't know, man. Stable coins, probably stable coin. If you think about it, if you're from a part of the world where the fiat currency is terrible and constantly getting inflated away, that's a lot of places, by the way. People are fleeing to these stable coins, as far as I can tell. I'm reading stories about like what's happening in Turkey, what's happening across Latin American countries, right? Many parts of the world, the fiat currencies are weak. They want something more stable. Okay, they're going to move into stable coins. Maybe that's it. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Polygon, my guess is that's a lot to do with Polymarket. Polymarket runs on the Polygon chain, so that's probably the bulk of their transactions. Base, I don't know. I'm not seeing anything happening on Base in the trenches. Arbitrum, even less. Very, very confusing data for you guys, but, happy to see all-time high levels on Ethereum. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, who the hell are these people?
Yeah, Mark Max King also saying AI agents affecting everything now, and that's very possible. In the world of AI and AI agents, all those have addresses tied to them, and if they're doing activity, technically those are mainnet active addresses, as the private key holder is a real human, but the activity is being generated by AI agents. So that is a good thought. Both of you guys touched on it. Another thing to look forward is every time Ethereum has upgrades, it gets in the news. Every time it has upgrades, it gets better, whether it's faster, cheaper, more relevant, or more useful. And, well, here we go. We always have the quantum computing FUD. Ethereum unveils straw map. 7 hard forks to achieve quantum resistance by 2029. The plan also aims to reduce block finality to under 16 seconds, making it faster, making it cheaper, but also making it resistant to the quantum FUD that we see that happens, about once a year between Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the fear of quantum computing being able to hack your private key and your favorite blockchain.
I mean, it's these kind of developments and the progress that the devs are making, which leads me to believe that ETH will outperform Bitcoin just in raw percentage terms over the next 5 to 10 years. Bitcoin should do very, very well. I'm sure will do very, very well. But ETH is going to outperform, partially because they're working on the quantum threat. And they're constantly improving the chain. I mean, they have 2 more, I believe, major upgrades happening just this year. And, their roadmap isn't slowing down. Whereas Bitcoin, those devs are still like dithering and arguing, what should we do about the quantum threat? Do we freeze a bunch of coins, old coins, upgrade the network, or who knows what do we do? I mean, they're fighting, they're infighting about it. Not a good look on the Bitcoin side. But here comes Ethereum, man. Not slowing down, constantly progressing, constantly upgrading. Another reason why I think ETH is absolutely going to outperform Bitcoin over the next, handful of years here.
What else do we want to go to? We want to go to the chat box, see what's going on here before we move on to the last couple stories. It looks like Mark Max King is in the house, of course. Louis Lullaby, Miko Chapo in the house. Smash the like, share, and subscribe buttons from Wyckoff Stock Market Institute. Cookie Dev says, good morning. And then Cookie Dev says, I think the following bull run, ETH will dominate. We've been talking about Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin since nearly the exact lows. I haven't looked at that chart in a while, but my estimation is it's probably occurring. Since the lows when we said that Ethereum would outperform Bitcoin, it has outperformed Bitcoin by 69%. That's a great number if you ask Elon Musk. Outperformance by 69% on Ethereum, since we told you guys that rotating for Bitcoin to Ethereum may seem like a risk, but it probably seems like the smart move.
It is out. I guess it's outperformed, but it certainly doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel that exciting. It doesn't feel like you've made any money on Ethereum over the past 5 years, because you really haven't. You really haven't. I mean, we still never broke the previous all-time high. I guess we did for like a minute back in August, I think, of last year or something like that.
The outperformance call was we made a green buy signal on that May of 2025 at a ratio of 0.018, and we're currently at 0.029. So yes, from the highs, Ethereum still hasn't broke new all-time highs. 5 years of bear market and consolidation, but from that rotation, Bitcoin or Ethereum still up in price and still up more than Bitcoin in price since that rotation call.
Yeah, no, I mean the numbers don't lie in terms of that call, which was a great call, but I mean just optically and from the outside and from a hodler's perspective, been in the market for a long time. I mean, ETH is on a 5-year consolidation, which is kind of insane to see and think about. I guess the question you need to ask yourself is what's more likely to happen here? And maybe this is a good segue over to the Bernstein prediction of $150,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year. What's more likely to happen here? Another, people are calling, I'm seeing people calling for $30,000 Bitcoin. So another 50% correction after the one we've already had. Or we continue to grind up higher, spurred on by Trump's policies, end of the war, oil prices going down, interest rates falling, stimulus coming in. My guess is the latter, but who knows? The Bears have been right for basically the past 6 months on things, so you kind of have to acknowledge that. But yeah, man, 5-year consolidation on ETH. The breakout will be glorious.
Rima in the house says, hey guys, what's up? Been away for a couple of weeks. Good to be back. Well, there you go. Maybe retail is coming back. Active addresses on Ethereum up, and what do you know? Rima's back. Maybe Rima has about 1 million AI agents running on Ethereum's chain or something like that. Yeah, Rima, you didn't miss too much. A lot of volatility, ups, downs, lefts, rights. Obviously, we wish you were here tuning in to make sure that you were on top of the alpha, the opportunities, and the short-term trades. But a good time to be back as we have lower or higher lows on both Bitcoin and Ethereum, trying to hold the moving averages, the bullish cross that we've been talking about and predicting for the past month. Meanwhile, everything around us seems to be crumbling. So let's see if we can hold these levels, get back above 70,000 ETH, get back above 70,000 Bitcoin, back above 2,100 ETH, and see if those moving averages serve as major support. Yeah, I mean, Bernstein, 150K target by end of year. That would be an all-time high for Bitcoin. That would cause some FOMO and euphoria, but you laid it out nicely. Percentage-wise, that's not all that great of a gain above the all-time high. Meanwhile, Ethereum would be breaking out of its all-time high for the first time. What do you think? Do you think if Bitcoin goes to 150, you see that euphoria, major outperformance in ETH, and we break through 4,800 and really burst towards that 5-figure number that people are talking about?
Oh, yeah, for sure. If we hit $150,000 Bitcoin, and I shouldn't say if. I said when we hit $150,000 Bitcoin, ETH will be at least, 7,000, 8,000, probably even higher. So, they do move in tandem, guys. It's not like they're completely decoupled from each other. They move more or less in tandem with moments of outperformance, underperformance, between the two. But, yeah, $150,000 Bitcoin by the end of the year, I think is completely a reasonable target. Obviously, right now, it doesn't feel that way because war FUD and what's going to happen with Iran and World War III and oil's going to be $1 million a barrel. And don't follow the panicans. Who remembers the panicans last year when Trump imposed all those tariffs? Liberation Day, market crash, 20%. Oh, the world's going to come to an end, sell everything. If you had followed those idiots, you would have missed the massive run that followed when Trump, one by one, just negotiated specific deals with those countries and basically made the tariffs go back to something completely reasonable the market could accept and live with. Isn't it more likely that a similar outcome is going to happen here with the Iran war? That the two sides ultimately do come to a negotiated settlement. Iran's going to say, hey, we won because we survived. Not every regime member was killed, and we still control the country, despite the fact that 90% of their military will have been destroyed. And the Americans will say, we won because we destroyed all their military, and they pose no threat to the region, at least no major threat because we destroyed all their long-term missiles, et cetera, and they have no more nuclear threat to make the world concerned about. Both sides will declare that, and my guess is we get back to some degree of normalcy in the next month or two. So I don't know, man. You follow the panicans, you follow the mainstream media. You do that at your own peril because it's going to cause you to sell off shit, and you're going to miss the run when it happens afterwards.
Well, in the Bernstein prediction here of 150,000 by the year, it's like, wow, that's a new all-time high. That would be amazing. That feels like it's so far away, but really that's only a 2x for Bitcoin. And a 2x in Bitcoin's market capitalization still puts you under silver's market cap. and it wasn't too long ago where Bitcoin did flip silver and pretty substantially flip silver. So pretty wild to think that Bitcoin go to 150,000. That's only a 2x. I know a lot of people watching the show are not interested in a 2x. We want 5x's, 10x's, 100x's. So it isn't all that crazy. And market cap wise, it still would be cheaper than silver would be on the grand scheme of things. So I don't think this is crazy. I don't think this is far-fetched. And the fact that Bitcoin is only a 2x away from these price predictions amidst all of the FUD, amidst all of the black swans, amidst no interest rate cuts, nobody is rooting for crypto except the administration themselves. Well, I think that is very achievable, and I think that is a high probability. We also, to follow up, Cookie Dev says, I'm calling the next top for Bitcoin at 236K. My call for the top of the major cycle, well, as I said, would be a 5-year cycle and end at the end of 2026, was 244K. So great minds think alike, and we still got, I don't know, 9 months to see if that becomes a reality or not. And then lastly, I guess here we want to talk about Roan. Roan's talking about Pulse Chain, talking to Gronk, talking to AI to make investment decisions. Overall sentiment in Pulse Chain circles is that this Clarity Yield Band creates a tailwind for non-custodial on-chain yield, exactly where Pulse Chain has built its niche. What are your thoughts? Well, that is a niche and a target that Richard Hart has been targeting, you know, with all the products they've been launching, and now with the ProveX launch, that is targeting that niche, protecting your privacy, protecting your yield, and giving you quick and cheap ways to do this. So I don't think AI is incorrect there. Now, is there enough retail or enough niche members currently to participate to make meaningful gains? At this very moment, probably not. You need Ethereum to be at $4,000 before I think retail gets active again and seeks opportunity elsewhere. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Pulse Chain has built a nice little niche. DeFi, on-chain yield, absolutely. That's what drew me to it, as well as the community aspects. But, yeah, I mean, if you think about retail's behavior, almost nobody jumps to a new chain, kind of unknown chain that they're not used to, unless there's green candles there and they feel there's major gains to be had. No one's hopping from like the stuff that they're familiar with over to something new, unless money is there to be made. So we're not quite there yet, obviously. It's been a challenging last 6 to 8 months, as we all know. But eventually, once, you know, as Nick mentioned, once Ethereum is back around its all-time high, I think people will start seeing opportunities elsewhere. We'll jump from chain to chain. I mean, hell, who remembers last cycle? We were trying out every damn new chain that popped up because there was like yield farming opportunities happening, new pre-sale opportunities happening, outperformance happening. Of course, short-lived oftentimes. I mean, most of those chains are dead and gone. But middle of the boat, people will do all sorts. They'll jump through all sorts of hoops to make some money, and they'll find their way to Pulse Chain. At least some of them. So you know, if you've been in Pulse Chain and it's been a struggle, I don't know. I just don't see it make sense selling out at the lows here. Better to wait, hodl on, hope our thesis plays out and outperforms when the bull market comes back.
When do you think the first Pulse Chain pre-sale will occur on the Pools platform? Here you go. PoolX is up 65% since Crypto Paradise got involved with it. A bunch of good opportunities are coming from Smart Sentinels, Bullshot, and the list goes on. PoolX token is up here. But with these products are launching on Base Chain and BNB Chain, nothing said about Pulse Chain just yet. Do you think that Pools will ever get a Pulse Chain project, or you think that Pulse Chain community and ecosystem will evolve to a bigger scale and actually need real launchpad launches rather than just, you know, pump tire launches or just community launches like we've seen in the past?
That's a good question. I mean, you could envision a scenario where Pulse Chain is evolved and big enough where projects like, yeah, I need to raise like $3 or $4 million or whatever to build this like sick protocol, and I'm going to go on launchpads. In which case, you know, Pools, I'm sure, will be happy to host any solid project that's looking to come on the launchpad that has good upside potential. I mean, of course, yeah. But thus far, I mean, Pulse Chain is kind of, and I guess it kind of comes from Richard Hart himself. Like, he's kind of led that community in a way where I don't think they really believe in the traditional like pre-sale model, ICO model. They do more sacrifices. You know, that's the approach, or maybe just DeFi, you know, just pure fair launches, things like that. So we'll have to see where Pulse Chain goes. But Pools outperforming, I mean, I'm not surprised looking at that chart, just because Pool's team has been ultra active, even in this bear market, onboarding projects, announcing partnerships with venture capital firms, the Pool's Ventures launch, getting back to active on social. Whereas a lot of launch pads, old school launch pads, have pretty much shuttered and closed up shop. Pools has gone the opposite direction of working extra hard. So, eventually people are going to look to launch pads to get into early pre-sale rounds because that's where the outperformance, that's where the 10x gains will happen. I know it sounds insane to say because we've been, talking about that for ages and it hasn't happened. But I'm a firm believer that eventually a bull market will return. And when that happens, people want to get involved with these early stage projects. Simple as that.
Well, you know who believes that crypto is secure and crypto is going higher? Here you go. Fannie Mae to accept crypto-backed mortgages for the first time, according to WSJ. This is pretty big because I don't know what the terms are on the mortgages, interest rates, whatever it may be, but the fact that Fannie Mae is even willing to do this, although it's probably only for Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum or stablecoins, they believe that it is a secure method of payment, one that will not be catastrophic in price, but actually has price appreciation opportunities, and something that Fannie Mae finds worthwhile to build an infrastructure for, believing that there's a lot of crypto people that are going to have a lot of money and being able to buy properties and get mortgages under their crypto umbrella.
Yeah, this has been in the works for a while as well. Just another example of the Trump administration doing seemingly everything he can outside of launching the Trump meme coin, which was a big mistake. Other than that, I mean, everything they've been doing has been beneficial for the industry and trying to push it forward, get adoption, etc. So this is a great story. As I understand it, there are a few kind of stipulations or requirements if you want to go ahead and do this. You need to hold your Bitcoin in a custodial account with KYC, a Coinbase, for example. You can't just go to the bank and, here, look at my cold storage wallet. Here's $1 million. Give me a loan. I got $1 million in Bitcoin and give me a loan. That's not how it's going to work. So you have to hold it in a custodial account with KYC. But then why wouldn't, if they, because if you go to get a mortgage, they request information from you, documents and so on, and ascertain your net worth, your income levels, your wealth levels, your assets, etc. They'll look at your stock holdings. So why wouldn't they also look at your crypto holdings to determine how much money you have? So it's just logical. It makes perfect sense that they would go in this direction. And the fact that it is Fannie and Freddie, basically the government mortgage lenders. Now I think the private lenders also decide, hey, we'll accept crypto and Bitcoin as well because that's where the industry's headed, as it should be. I mean, this is real money. There's liquidity behind it. Why wouldn't you include that as your part of your net worth when going for a mortgage?
And I think we end this show on some negative things here. So let's go over negative, it depends on, I guess, where you fall on the spectrum here. But let's show a couple things. Let's go over the gold price. If you were a gold buck, more red for you, $4,445. I still think there's downside risk to $4,000. I would prefer that we don't get that and we consolidate in this range because when we have long-term consolidation in gold and silver, that creates major lows in Bitcoin and big price appreciation for Bitcoin and Ethereum. So more red for gold, but it is still trying to hold its previous capitulation levels. So if we can go sideways in between $4,000 to $5,000 gold for the next 3 to 6 months, that's how we achieve new all-time highs for Bitcoin and Ethereum in my estimation. As for oil prices, we were bragging about it below 90. That's what we want to see. We want to see it below $90 because if you have oil prices sustained above $90 for over 3 months, that has marked recessions in history. Well, today it opened up at $95 oil, but as we've been on this show, it has slowly been dropping, gas getting cheaper, 92.87 per barrel on oil. We want to see this continue to fall below 90. So maybe some of the Iranian war fears did subside because I know the market opened and we were at 95 a barrel and now it's down to 92.95. What are your thoughts about oil? What are your thoughts about precious metals? And do you think this is an indication that maybe something is happening over on Iran, either with the Strait of Hormuz or maybe peace negotiations?
The way I look at it is this. Trump understands the implications of these markets. He understands what it means for, his political future, the midterm elections, all the priorities he has throughout the remainder of his term. He knows we can't have oil above $90 for 3 months. He knows we can't have long-term yields on the bond market at 4.5%. He knows we can't have interest rates, federal funds rates as high as they are. Those got to get down too. He knows we got to refinance the debt. He knows all of these things. So, I mean, the window is pretty tight at this point to get this Iran war wrapped up. A couple more weeks, I think, max. This is a big weekend because I believe Friday, after the market's closed, of course, is that deadline that he gave to, get a deal in place or whatever the case was. We're not going to attack this and that infrastructure. We have 5-day pause on killing leaders, etc., to get a deal in place. We're getting down to the wire on it. And, the Iranians are saying one thing publicly, we're saying one thing publicly. Nobody truly knows what's happening behind the scenes in these negotiations. The fact is both sides have an interest in resolving this war. You think the regime wants it to go on forever? Constantly having bombs rain down on them and killing all their commanders and shit for another year? Why would they want that? So they want to get it done. Trump's side wants to get it done. Let's hope it gets done.
And then the last thing, well, who has been selling Bitcoin? Here we go. Marathon Digital, Mara, just sold $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. This is a miner. So historically, miners sold Bitcoin to pay overhead. This isn't anything out of the ordinary. But what makes this a little more painful is Mara, along with MicroStrategy, along with Bitminer and all these, started creating strategic reserves and really rode the hype of having strategic reserves and holding and accumulating these assets for the future. And that was kind of the investor's incentive to hold it. Hey, you buy this company not only creates revenue from other sources, but is buying and compounding Bitcoin and Ethereum strategic reserves, and you believe those prices will be up higher, meaning your share price will go up rapidly. Well, Mara has waned from that. Of course, it was, I think, a couple months ago we had the FUD where Mara and the disclosures changed some things so that they could sell some of their Bitcoin or strategic reserve as they deem fit. Nothing's really come of it for the past few months. And now here when Bitcoin rallied to 72,000, Mara did sell $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. Now, again, it's not out of the ordinary. It is a miner. What do you expect? They sell Bitcoin in order to cover overhead expenses. And it seems that they sold $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, 15K Bitcoin, in order to refinance their debt and get a 9% discount on their debt so they can run the business longer and more efficiently into the future. So if you're a pessimist, you say, wow, they sold $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. That is hurting price. If you're an optimist, you say, well, at least they got a deal on their debt. They can continue to mine and be a Bitcoin strategic reserve company for years and cycles to come. Where do you fall on the spectrum? What do you think about Mara selling $1 billion of Bitcoin on our head when we're trying to find a major low?
Well, you don't want anyone to ever sell their Bitcoin. I'm doing my part. I'm hodling my Bitcoin. Granted, I don't have nearly as much as they do. But, you don't want to see anyone sell ever. But, the fact they did sell that much, I don't know how much went through like OTC, over the counter. Do they sell it to Michael Saylor directly or did they just sell it on the market? I don't know. But the fact that they sold that much and we're still holding these levels amidst this, FUD outbreak on the war, things could be a lot worse, couldn't they, folks? I mean, we looked at the chart earlier. It doesn't look all that bad. I know it's not fun when you see red on the day, but we're still holding 69K, well off the lows of the 60K from a couple of months ago. The chart looks pretty constructive. So, yeah, I mean, they sold $1 billion, but look at that. The world didn't come to an end. Bitcoin didn't go to zero. So, I'm really not that bearish about it when you zoom out. But, yeah, they should have held.
At least they're using the funds to pay off debt for the business, right, and getting a discount on that. It would have been a much worse story. They said $1 billion because CEO and employees want raises and stock payouts or something. You know what I mean?
Well, they already
get
paid millions a year.
Right, that's true. But them selling $1 billion Bitcoin and then paying themselves reminds me of Ethereum Foundation. So, 200, we need to sell 2 million of ETH to pay our devs. It's like, that's retarded. But anyways, we digress. Like you said, price is still trying to hold with war FUD. And with $1 billion being dumped on our heads, we're still holding the moving average. We're still holding 69,000, and we are at a critical level. We could break down to 68K as we speak, and things look a lot uglier. But let's see how we progress here over the next couple of days, and I'm sure we'll be live again tomorrow morning to cover all the news.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big weekend, right? Like, The pessimist in me says we're not going to get a deal that's acceptable to Trump in the next 48 hours or whatever it is. I mean, it seems pretty unlikely. Apparently, one of the Iranians' demands is that we pay them back money. We give them reparations. Like, come on, that's not happening, guys. So, the two sides seem pretty far apart here based on their public statements. Now, obviously, they're private. What happens privately, and this is, I guess, consistent with prior conflicts with Iran, where publicly they'll come out with some just totally insane, no one ever is going to agree to these terms kind of proposal publicly, and then like a couple days later, those terms are gone, and there's been a negotiated settlement, and the thing's done. So that could well happen again. But a part of me is thinking that, no, the Iranians are way too hard-headed here and stubborn. And it's going to take more bombs, and maybe even an invasion, and maybe even taking over Karg Island and taking over the Strait of Hormuz. And now, if that happens, obviously the markets will sell off as it's going on. But if somehow we were able to take control of the strait and basically then control the flow of oil around the entire world, long term, that's good for markets. So, I don't know. Let's see what happens, man. Do you think somehow we get a breakthrough and this thing ends in the next 48 hours? Doesn't it feel unlikely?
Until I saw the rumor of Iran saying no peace deal, I thought there was a high chance of that happening. So, again, where the communication comes out of these Iran people, who knows? I think the regime is all over the place. That's why I think there is random drone strikes happening and whatnot. I'm rooting for it because, again, if it doesn't happen and the more bombs happen this weekend, we're going to have the same thing repeat itself. Low liquidity weekend for crypto. We're going to have major red candles. Market opens on Monday, major red candles. Oil prices go back above $100. Mainstream media goes on a 2 or 3 day rant about how bad Trump is. The world is coming to an end, World War III, and we have to suffer another week. So I don't want that to happen. Historically, we have called when these things are happening because Trump is trying to protect the stock markets and is doing things when the market is closed. But, well, crypto never closes.
Yeah, the blessing of the curse of this market now, especially now with hyperliquid too. You can trade like oils futures and gold and silver and I guess stocks too, all on hyperliquid. So I mean, this is the world that we live in, 24/7 markets. But I mean, thinking about for myself and anyone who's kind of like long term in this market, obviously it sucks if we get another week of volatility and red and FUD and fear and blah blah blah, or even another 2 weeks or a month. I don't want to see it. I hate to see it. But, will I just give up and sell all my crypto if that happens? Will I just, say it's all over forever and get out of the markets and just it's all going to zero? No, I mean, you just hold through the shit like you always do and, wait for better times to come. So I don't know. I mean, part of me is a bit hopeful. Both sides should want a resolution here. Like, Iran, this is what you should do if anyone's listening. Give up your nuclear ambitions, guys. Like, it's just not happening. Nobody wants you to have nukes. If you keep trying to build them, U.S., Israel, etc., are going to keep bombing you over and over. Why would you want that? Like, I get it. It's not fair. Every other country has nukes. Well, life's not fair. And maybe if your policy wasn't, death to America, blah, 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 then we will let you have nukes. But apparently that's in, like, your charter and your constitution. So we're not going to let you have nukes. Sorry, guys. And instead of building nukes, why not do what the UAE did? Why not do what Dubai did? Just invest in your country. Invest in your people. Just try to make money. Like a normal fucking person. Instead of trying to kill everyone and being theocratic and everyone should convert to my religion and if you don't, I'm going to kill you. Just say, hey, I'm here to make some money and make my life better for my family. Why can't you be that way? Why can't you be a normal person? Just be normal. If you were normal, none of this would have happened. Okay? Hell, we even let Russia have nukes. Not really let them, but they have a bunch, and we're not bombing them because we know that they're kind of, I know Putin's a little bit insane and wants to take over Ukraine and stuff, but at least we know he's not like totally captured by some like religious theocratic fanaticism in his head. He's a rational person, more or less. If you were rational, we might be able to live with you having nukes, but that's not the case. So you're not going to get the nukes. Give that up. If you want to make money off Strait of Hormuz, I don't know, but you're a normal acting in like a normal regime. That's okay too. The other thing is don't kill your citizens. Why are we not
That is-
talking about that more? Why is no
That
one
is the
talking?
biggest thing that mainstream media does not pick up on. It's like mainstream media ran for 2 weeks when an ICE agent killed an American citizen who was protesting, blocking the streets, not listening to local police, not listening to federal agents, then tried to run over a federal agent, and then got shot and crashed into a building. That was on the news for weeks and weeks and weeks. But 32,000 actual protesters protesting the Iranian regime and the dictatorship going on over there, all being slaughtered on live TV, being all those photos being shared across their internet, which is, restricted as well. That got what, 1 day of headlines on Fox News only? It doesn't make much sense to me, but it doesn't fit with their agenda, and that's why I don't talk about it.
They recently killed a 19-year-old wrestler, like a college. I don't know if he was college or what, but he was just a young guy, a wrestler. I guess he protested. I think they hung him or they just assassinated him. They just killed him. That was in the news for like a day, but not on. Wasn't over on the New York Times, was it? So I mean, stop killing your citizens. Give up your nuclear ambitions. Become like Dubai or become like Saudi. If you want to be Muslim, I don't care. But also be a rational person that's not just trying to murder people. And then maybe, yeah, we wouldn't, feel the need to bomb you and stuff like that. But if you reject the deal, it's more this. We're just going to kill more of their commanders and shit. We're going to bomb more of the infrastructure. We're going to send them back even further. And in a couple weeks, we'll be back to the same bang. Okay, now here. Let's negotiate now, but instead more of your shit will be destroyed and more of your people will be dead. So why would you do that? That makes no sense.
Iranian Supreme Leader, if you're watching this, please just make a deal this weekend so our bags can pump. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Grab a bag yourself. Here's what, if they were rational people, just trying to make money for them and their families, they would grab a bag, they would go long as fuck, the 100x leverage, baby, on Hyperliquid. And they would announce that they're relinquishing their nuclear ambitions, and market would skyrocket, and they would make tens and hundreds of millions of dollars in a second. Do that!
That makes too much sense.
Why are we even doing this, guys? Like, what are we doing with our lives? So, yeah, and I mean, you can be mad at Trump. Why do you do it now? Why did he start a war? I mean, yeah, I guess it's true. I don't want the war, and I guess I'm mad at Trump for starting the war, but it's like, what if he didn't, and then shit continued to get more militarized over there, and then they started a war? It's like, did you really trust them to do the right thing and just be a normal country when they've never proven that they could just be a normal? Not the people. I mean, the people are very normal apparently, but the regime, can you just trust them to? Oh, they were just like, they were just like UK. They're just like normal government. Yeah, they have a couple nukes, but it's just a deterrent, and they're democratic and they're capitalist and honky dory. By the way, UK's in the shitter, but for different reasons. That wasn't the facts on the ground, guys. So you blame Trump all you want, and I'm sure there's some validity to that. But at some point, it's like, got to know when you're beat, and I don't see how we're never going to let them have nukes. So it's just give up now and just try and pivot and become a real country. Like, why not do that? I don't know.
Yeah,
the whole thing
we'll
pisses
see.
me off.
We shall see. Big weekend. I'm sure we'll have a live show tomorrow with more information and more charts to going into the weekend. Now, chart structures, news, all of that really doesn't matter when we go into the weekend, because that weekend, whatever happens, whatever is said, whatever is done, is going to supersede everything that happens this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to envision a positive scenario here. Maybe, because it's highly doubtful that the sides come to a full agreement on all the things, right? But if it's like, hey, we've agreed on 5 out of the 10, and there's 5 left, and we're negotiating them in good faith, and both sides feel, okay, this is a good faith negotiation, then, okay. Bombings will slow down or whatever. We won't attack the infrastructure. We won't kill more of the regime members. Can't say the same for the Israelis. They seem to be wanting to take out all these motherfuckers. But in any event, the markets would pump in that scenario, right? If it's like, we're making progress, guys. We've agreed to a lot of the things. There's some sticking points, but we're feeling confident we can get there. Give us another couple weeks negotiation. Dude, markets would fly. Oil would crash. we'd be celebrating the near end of this thing. So that's a very real possibility, I think, over this weekend, that we see enough progress on, the negotiations, that the market would pump. And absolutely, Trump says we won. No need to put boots on the ground or use atomic bomb. By the way, I don't think we've ever threatened to use a nuke. I've not seen that, but I think Martin's kidding. But yeah, no troops on the ground. I don't think Trump's going to commit to that, though, until this thing is basically done. I think we keep troops and we keep the military, all the armament, all the aircraft carriers and everything. We keep them in the Middle East for months, even after a negotiation, just to make sure that, hey, they're still complying with, they're not, violating the terms of agreement. They're letting the nuclear inspectors in, all those things. So, this probably ends up being kind of a long-term, not a war per se, but at least we're monitoring the situation. I don't think he completely withdraws the troops. But yeah, worst case scenario for the markets anyway is we go in, I think there's about 2,000 commandos positioned around Strait of Hormuz in Iran, and moment's notice, they could be deployed. Then all of a sudden, boots on the ground. Here goes liberal media. You said you wouldn't do it. This is another forever war. Markets crash. So, guys, if you're scared of volatility, by the way, I'm seeing a lot of big accounts still going on hyperliquid and, 40x leverage. And it's like, dude, are you nuts? How do you know with any degree of certainty which way the market's going to go tomorrow? How could you possibly know or be so confident in your abilities that you would do a 40x leverage? I just saw the Maki guy. He's like a big leverage trader. He's been liquidated for like $300 million over the past month. And he's still out there doing more leverage trading. It's like, what are you doing, bro? Nothing can be predicted this moment in time. There's way too many variables, way too much uncertainty. So if you're out there trying to do leverage, I just think now is the wrong time for that. One Trump tweet or one bomb, a stray bomb, and the thing goes sideways. So we'll be here. We'll be monitoring. Hopefully tomorrow brings some more positive news. We want to see Bitcoin above $70,000. Any final thoughts before we jump for today here, Nick?
69,700, sitting right on these moving averages. The 4-hour candle closes here in 1.5 hours. It will be a big 4-hour candle. Let's see if we can see follow through on this bounce. Could potentially be creating an inverse head and shoulders. If that is the case, you're looking at a run above 72,500. That would be really nice. That would go nicely with the bullish MA cross. But again, we might have a day or two of green here, and then the weekend is really going to determine the next step for all markets, not just Bitcoin and ETH.
I gotta say, at least Trump tries to spare the stock market with when he times these major announcements. He times the invasion, whatever you want to call that, where we captured Maduro. That was on weekend. Thanks for that. The initial bombing campaign against Iran, where they took out Ayatollah Khomeini, that was on a Saturday. Thanks for that. He made it such that this negotiation, I guess the deadline to get something done is when the market's going to be closed, Friday afternoon. Thanks for that. So at least he's sparing the entire markets potential, major volatility, because no one wants to see that. But like you said, Bitcoin, crypto, etc., 24/7 global markets. But that's it. Ultimately, I think that is a good thing. And where the market's heading generally is 24/7 global stock trading. You're going to see that in the next year or two. Anyway, so it is what it is, guys. But, hey, it could be worse. It could be worse. Bitcoin could be sub $60,000 right now. We could be the bears want to understand. The bears want to see 40,000. We could be there. If we were still trading like the Nasdaq, we would probably be like $50,000 Bitcoin. Yep. The Nasdaq's down like 15% or something in the past month.
Crypto Amaru, the king of head fakes, has tried wrapping up the show 7 times already.
I'm not ready to wrap up, man. I'm not ready to wrap up.
You giving the head fake. Any last thoughts? Okay, actually. Any last thoughts? Actually, the head fake. Pull up that chart one more time. Thoughts.
I'll get one last thought, guys.
69,650. So we're sitting here on a green candle.
The final thought is we are all going to make it. Wag me, guys. Wag me.
Waggy coming back.
We're bringing back Wag me. It's all going to be good, guys. We're going to survive this weekend like we've survived all the others. And until next time, guys.